Welcome back to Charity Farms. My name is Teresa, but you can call me T. Okay. Last week we talked about weed fabric, and the week before that we talked about topsoil and everything I was doing for the idea in my mind. Well, now we are going to get a few of the beds ready for the idea of my mind to start to take place. You already saw that I laid down 2 metal raised beds that I had way prior to, which I will actually link. I'll find that order that I placed on Amazon, and I'll link that below as well. But I'm not affiliated whatsoever with Amazon at the moment. So, but I will link everything down below. The other thing you saw was a standing raised bed that was placed next to my smaller raised beds at the very end of last week's video. I have a total of 4 standing raised beds. You only saw 1. I'm going to show you how to put this bed together. This video will walk you through step by step on how to do this. I hope it helps. There are times when you're reading something and it just doesn't make any sense. These instructions, the very first part of it is confusing, to say the least. The first bed that I made, I realized that I actually put the first legs wrong because they didn't explicitly explain that you need to have the holes with the 4 holes in the very front. All they did was show a picture with 1 circle and screws. It made no sense to me. It's like, okay. So I had to fix that one. So in this video, I'm actually showing you how it's all done. The hardest part of this video is actually putting the centerpiece together, because that's where you're putting in so many components. You have the center beam, you have the 2 ends that are coming in at the same time, along with the legs. And not only does one side have to be, you would think that you can only do one side, you have to actually line everything up centerfold on both sides. So that was the most difficult part, but it can be done. I will say that on the other side, my screws didn't line up entirely. They were like 1/8 of an inch off. I'm not one who will fuss too much over 1/8 of an inch. I got my drill bit, made the hole bigger, got done what I needed to get done. I don't believe that you should struggle so much where you get flustered and frustrated just because there's just a small section that is not willing to cooperate with you. Well, if it's not willing to cooperate with you, then you just say, okay, well, here's a new way to make it work. You don't want to be the person who beats the head against the wall. You always want to see, is there a way around the wall? I can't tell you how many times I've beaten my head up against the wall several times before I realized and said, just because it's 1/8 of an inch off doesn't mean that I have to get everything lined up exactly. I can use a drill bit and get that 1/8 lined up the way I need to, and it will still be fine. That's what I did. I hope you enjoy the video. Here is the plan for the Garden Design 2024. I do apologize that my 4 is off, but it's 2024. Originally, the garden was going to be up against the brick wall and in the center of the yard. But we decided that we want the dogs to have a dog run because they love to run in circles. So we decided to put the dog run in the very back against the wall. So the garden will move up a little bit more. From last week's video, you saw that we laid down 2 raised metal beds in the center of the weed fabric. That's where these are located right here. You also saw that we placed a standing raised bed next to the smaller metal beds, but I have 3 more that I had to put together and place outside. This video will show you how I put those beds together. These beds were purchased from Amazon by Best Choice Products. I am not affiliated with them, but the link will be below. Nacho decided to come to see if he could help unwrap. Moses did not want to be ignored and wanted his belly rubbed. Tell me honestly, is it common for your household to have your pets in the thick of any project that you are doing, and they truly believe they are helping you? Ah, I love those little farts. It is always best to read through your instruction manual first to help understand the beginning of the instructions. Once you have done that, then you want to ensure that you have all the parts you need. A little story. About 2 years ago, Dave and I were putting together our work desks, and we did not ensure we had all the proper parts. We were almost completed with building 2 corner desks, one for me and one for him. But at the end of it, we did not have the necessary rack required for his bottom drawer. We were lucky that we could put that together at a later date until we received the part. But if it was something else, it would have been difficult to work until the part was received. I am contemplating exactly how this needs to be built. The instructions are not very clear, but because I read through them, I do believe that I need to have the 4 holes facing me to help lock in a connector for the next couple of steps. Right now, I'm only screwing in 1 screw to hold it in place. I do this because if I need to redo something later, I don't have to remove all the screws, I just have to remove the one that was holding it in place. What was just put together was one end of the bed. I am now working on doing the exact same thing to the other end. The next step was to take the 1 front panel and 1 back panel and screw in 2 support beams. Because this bed is 6 feet long, I will have to complete this task twice. Now I am instructed to take 1 end panel and connect it to the front and back panel. This is the step where the connector will be placed. To hold the connector in place, I used a flathead while I screwed in the screw. I did this for all 4 corners of the bed. Now that I have the connector to the end panel, I will place all required screws to keep the bed sturdy and able to hold the weight I will be placing on it in the garden. The next step is to place the baseboards through the grooves. The first will have the 90-degree box corners facing down, followed by a perfect rectangular board, then another board with 90-degree box corners, this time facing up. Now I need to connect the 2 ends, but it will also have a beam in the center to give the bed more support. I place the 2 center legs on with the connector for the support beam facing inward. Then I slide in the other end. I place the connector in one side along with one supporting screw and do the same to the other side. Once I know that all screws have been lined up and are securely fastened, I will place in the rest of the required supporting screws. Now I will stand the bed up and place the pegs for each leg, followed by the top piece and screws. The project took about an hour to complete. The hardest part is that middle section. The other thing too is for these beds, you saw that there was a gap in the center of them at the very bottom. I'm not worried about it for these beds because of my plan. Because the weather last year was very, very hot. I believe we had a month where it was 117 degrees straight. It burned a lot of the plants, even the ones who are native to Arizona. A few of my aloe veras really struggled, and my rosemary bushes actually have burnt needles because it was so hot. It doesn't usually do that here in Arizona, but there's a first for everything, so okay. But now that we've had that very hot summer, I need to think about how am I going to ensure that my plants are going to be protected, which is why they're underneath the shade cloth, and how am I going to ensure that my soil does not dry out and allows the chance for my plants to truly thrive with what they need. And that's what these raised beds are going to be. This is going to be an experiment throughout the summer, and we'll see if this works. But there's going to be a plastic lining followed by rocks, weed cloth, and dirt. And in these sections, I'm actually showing you, I'm actually putting drilling holes into certain areas so that my bed will not overwater and it will get waterlogged, or I'm sorry, it will get so watered that the roots get root rot. I need it where there's only so much water that will stay there, but it will allow it to keep going down and draining out. But I also need a place to actually add water just in case it's so hot that the soil needs to go ahead and absorb whatever it needs for the nutrients to become that way. So that's why I got these beds. That's why I got them the way they are. And that's why I wasn't worried about the big gap. You can still buy these beds. And if there is a gap, the gap does bother you, all you really need to do is just go ahead and get some plastic, lay it down, and that will actually hold what you need for that tiny little gap. And then just poke where the holes are in the original, just poke holes in the fabric and you'll be fine. I hope you guys have a blessed week. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Bye.